Hello, and thank you for joining us on Weather Out West. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti, and here's what we are tracking for you today. From brutal wind chills to near whiteout conditions, winter weather is gripping much of the Midwest and Northeast. We'll show you the dangerous conditions drivers are facing and what is ahead. And while the other side of the country is dealing with winter weather, it is pretty quiet on the western front. The only exception is fog and cloud cover. We're tracking how dense it is and when the sun will return. Plus, while flu season is in full swing, experts warn about some other diseases that are re-emerging. The top 5 infectious diseases experts say to watch out for moving forward. Happy Tuesday, January 20th to you, and welcome to Weather Out West, the hour-long show where we showcase what's happening weather-wise across the western United States. We begin today in the Midwest and the Northeast, where snowplows are out in full force as many states are dealing with major winter weather. In New York, lake-effect snow created difficult travel conditions as well. One of the several states reporting wind chills of 20 to 30 degrees below zero. Check out this dash cam video out of Michigan. It shows the near whiteout conditions drivers faced yesterday. The blowing snow and slick roads is creating dangerous travel conditions. So dangerous, in fact, that dozens of cars were involved in an accident, shutting down a stretch of road for hours. The inclement weather causing major problems there today, but the winter weather is expected to affect the majority of the country before the week is out. Sherelle Hubbard has more.
More than 100 cars and several jackknifed semi-trucks sprawled all over the road for hours Monday after they were involved in a pileup on a Michigan interstate. The local sheriff says it began just before 10:30 a.m. on Interstate 196 in Zeeland Township near Grand Rapids.
Holy.
This video from a driver who was involved in the pileup shows the aftermath, with cars smashed up against semi-trucks.
Goes back for miles.
He says there were whiteout conditions from a snowstorm ahead of the crash.
It can be almost like going into a white curtain.
We believe what happened is that a vehicle struck a semi-truck, a tractor trailer. That then set off a chain reaction. I can tell you that a couple dozen tractor trailers were involved in this incident, included in the 100 vehicles that were involved.
The accident prompted the closure of the interstate in both directions between 2 exits, while authorities worked to clear the wreckage. The Ottawa County Sheriff's Office says there were no fatalities and 10 people suffered minor injuries.
We got about 100 cars.
While dangerous sub-zero wind chills are gripping the Midwest and Great Lakes, frigid cold temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below average are expected to affect many parts of the U.S. soon.
About 70% of the population of the U.S. with temperatures this week that will be below freezing, below 32 degrees.
I'm Sherelle Hubbard reporting.
So we will keep our eyes on the Midwest and the eastern portions of the country, but we do want to begin our Weather Out West forecasts in the Northwest, where we're seeing a pretty quiet pattern. That quiet pattern is lending itself to fog formation. We're going to start in the Northwest in Seattle, but first, let's get to Hector Mendoza in Boise.
Well, last night and this morning was beautiful due to the northern lights that we had a chance to see across much of Idaho here. So this is just a post that we got from our director here. You could see those purples. You could see a little bit more of those blues here off onto the left here and in the right. And you could see again with all those colors and all those stars in the skies made for a perfect view from last night. That's if you were up in higher elevations. If you stayed down here in the valley, you didn't really get much of a view. Some spots did get to see some very muted colors here, but Brian posted this on our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook group, and this is out in Middleton. Not really much to see, and this is what's going to continue here for today, as we're not expecting much changes to come along, but of course, those mountains absolutely fantastic. So the biggest thing is going to continue here through today, tomorrow, and heading in through Thursday is going to be those very dreary valleys, the bright Mountains. And again, as this will continue to stick around with this inversion, that's what we're expecting to see. But as we head on in through Friday, that's when we start to see this inversion start to weaken. This high pressure system will start to really move its way on out. And then we're expecting some changes to really come along in through this weekend. So this is a look at the big picture setup. So we're in between this sort of system here for many spots there and through central U.S. And that's what's going to bring along a lot more of the active weather across places further east. But here in the Pacific Northwest, this high pressure system will continue to really dominate our weather pattern. That's why we're not expecting much of the moisture to really make its way on down. So no precipitation, at least as we're heading in through the end of this week. But as we head in towards the weekend, that's when we'll notice our first chance in a while to see any sort of precipitation. Still, those chances are very low and we could see some flurries. But again, the possibility is there due to the breakdown of this system and also the weakening of this inversion. So as we look at the 7-day forecast, we are going to see here for today a chance for some flurries here this morning as we've continued with a lot of that very dense fog. That will continue here through the Treasure and Magic Valleys. As we look on in through Wednesday and Thursday, that's when we start to notice a little bit of a change. Could see some sunshine, but because of the colder air that's going to start to make its way through, that's why we expect these colder temperatures to really stick around with us here, not just through the afternoons, that is, but also in through the morning, as we'll stick around to those low to mid 20s all the way through Monday. But then after that, we do expect to see a little bit more of an inversion really start to rebuild and start to strengthen here as we head towards next week. So this is just a look at our upper level pattern and just exactly how it's going to interact with our environment here. So we'll continue to see that this ridge of high pressure that's coming along after this weekend is going to slowly start to build. But again, as we start to see a little bit more of a dip in this sort of jet stream here, we're going to start to notice a chance for some of that precipitation to make its way through for the mountains. A little bit less of those chances, but still a possibility comes along for many of those valley spots. And then as we fast forward here through Sunday and heading in through Monday and Tuesday, we'll continue to see a little bit more of those drier conditions. Not anticipating to seeing any sort of moisture make its way through here for Monday and Tuesday. And then temperatures for the Magic Valley will slowly start to rise up just a bit as we'll stay around those mid 30s. And of course, we're going to start to see that those mountain valleys are also going to start to cool off with some of these inversion conditions really starting to scour out with some of the winds that we are expecting to see here later on this week.
Well, the talk of the town in Washington on Tuesday is the aurora, the northern lights showing off on Monday night into Tuesday morning. Reached a KP 8, even 9, so it was very impressive. These are just some of the photos. This is one from Longview, Washington. The photos always do it better justice than the naked eye. That long range exposure on a camera can do a beautiful job of capturing the hue. But spectacular sights to wake up to on Tuesday morning. As we look forward, unfortunately, we're not looking at as good of viewing potential. It did get very impressive on Monday night, but Tuesday night, technically the very tip of Washington is right on the cusp of being able to see a little bit, but it's certainly not going to be impressive as what we saw Monday night. So enjoy the photos while you can. Here is a look from our Queen Anne Tower camera overlooking downtown Seattle on Tuesday. After a little bit of a foggy start to the morning, we're seeing some fair weather clouds, but overall pretty pleasant conditions on this Tuesday. You can see a little bit of the fog here off in the distance. That's been one of the big concerns really for the last couple of days and will continue moving forward, is fog to start our days. It goes hand in hand. When we have a mild weather pattern, we oftentimes see that morning fog and also cold temperatures in the morning as well. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. So that's been the story for the last couple of mornings. In fact, check this out. This is what Washington woke up to on Tuesday morning. These were the lows for the day. Sub-freezing in many cases. 28 degrees in Bellingham, 27 in Mount Vernon, 31 for Seattle, 28 down in Puyallup, 30 in Shelton, Olympia, and Chehalis, 25 in Bremerton, 28 in Port Townsend. So very cold Tuesday morning. That will continue again for the next couple of mornings. And we'll also continue to watch patchy fog for the next few mornings. So the big story is this very mild weather. We've seen a rinse and repeat day after day after day, and that continues. continues for the next couple of days of cold temperatures in the morning, some morning fog, nice afternoon conditions with some sunshine peeking out, temperatures into the 40s. It continues today and it will continue for a good chunk of this upcoming week. Here's a look at our highs for our Tuesday. Temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. A few areas could hit 50 degrees. These daytime highs are actually right on track with normal for this time of the year. It's our overnight lows, those 20s. That is unseasonably cold, anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees cooler than normal for those overnight lows. But look at this camera that's moving around from Westport. We see that sun that is shining. This is along our Washington coast. Absolutely beautiful. Clear skies there. We're seeing clear skies from Mount Rainier as well. This is paradise. What I'm not loving right now is the lack of snow. Yes, we love sunshine. Yes, we love beautiful conditions. However, we don't want it to come at the expense of our snowpack. This is the time of the year when we want to be building that snowpack, and unfortunately, dry weather for rain in the lowlands means dry weather for snow in the mountains. Not a good thing to see. But one thing we will celebrate, this is a little bit of a victory for us in Washington, is we're getting more daylight. We gain about an hour of daylight in the month of January. We're officially at more than 9 hours of daylight. The shortest day of the year, of course, winter in December is about 8.5 hours. So we're getting closer and closer and closer. So we get to enjoy that daylight with sunshine. Like I said, it's been dry. In fact, SeaTac, as of yesterday, our official gauge, so yesterday was the 7th day with no rain. Tuesday, today, is going to be the 8th day of no rain. We are flirting with records. The longest dry spell in the month of January was 15 days back in 1963. So as we look forward, no big rain chances. Today's day 8. We've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And as we head into early next week, we have some light rain chances that are heading our way. We see that as we head into Thursday. A weak disturbance brushes by. Saturday, a weak disturbance tries to move in. Sunday, not so much. So Monday is our next chance at rain, but that is so weak and it's still a week out. So I would not be surprised if it dissipates. So we are on the cusp of that record potential for dry weather as we head into the second half of January. And let's keep talking about northern lights. Washington and Boise weren't the only ones that got to see the beautiful night sky. The strong geomagnetic storm made its way south as well. Here are some images. This is Cannon Beach in Oregon. A little bit of a nice pastel. Oh my goodness, Flagstaff, Arizona looks a lot brighter there. We also have Colorado as well. So my goodness, that one looks like it's probably the desert as well. A couple views around the region, around the West Coast, certainly showed off. And keep in mind, we see the northern lights rotate through an 11-year cycle. We hit our peak in 2024. We're on the way down, but still staying relatively high. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Well, when we come back, your forecast for the remainder of the Northwest, we are going to check in on Spokane and Portland. Welcome back to Weather Out West. Let's go now to Eastern Washington. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick is keeping an eye on the stagnant weather pattern and what that means for visibility in Spokane.
I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick in Spokane, Washington, where the clouds have dominated our forecast recently and are showing no sign of moving anytime soon here. We have very few storm systems, if any, at play, so our weather pattern remains extraordinarily consistent to the point where yesterday our temperatures only budged by 1 single degree in 24 hours. It went from 27 for the low to 28 for the high, all underneath all this heavy cloud cover, which is still sticking around today. Clouds, clouds, clouds all week long until something happens in the bigger weather pattern. And it doesn't look like anything will happen until maybe early next week or this weekend. That I label as snow with a question mark, but in the meantime, pretty normal for January weather. Unfortunately, the cloud cover really stifled our opportunity to see any kind of northern lights from last night. And it was absolutely active, especially after 2, 3, 4 a.m. We even got one picture at about 6:30 in the morning, about an hour to sunrise, and it was still very, very vibrant where there was no cloud cover, because unfortunately last night before sunset, things didn't really look all that impressive. The one picture we got was from Chesaw, Washington, far, far northern Washington, almost in the almost to Canada. Basically, you could probably see some of the Canadian mountains even in this own picture. Beautiful stuff, a lot of purple and red shades shimmering overhead. And again, just about an hour to sunrise. This is great. The only thing I find outstanding is, where's the clouds? You found the one perfect spot anywhere within like an hour's or multiple hour drive of Spokane to find those northern lights. So thank you very much for sharing that picture with us. Probably one of the first to actually see a little bit of daylight in far northern Washington. The rest of us still sitting underneath this heavy cloud cover layer. There's actually two layers of clouds now. The low-level clouds that have been sat in between the mountains, and now a mid-layer of cloud cover actually kind of drifting from north to south across the region. Not enough to spit out even any kind of snowfall other than maybe like a misty snowflake here or there. It's really just all about the clouds still, because this is no true storm system passing through. I'm optimistic, though, that a little bit of some drier air is trying to sneak in. Should that happen, I don't think it goes outright clear or sunny. I think it just thins the cloud cover. If that happens, it might get a little warmer. And by a little, I mean 33 for the high. I think we stay just a shade below average, 35 being that average in Spokane. So effectively nothing really happening across the Northwest. And even looking at the big picture here, if you're really just focused in on the northwest corner of the U.S., there's not much happening. Even another gentle ridge starts to sneak in, and honestly, that still leads to more dry weather. Cloudy, but dry weather for the next several days. That to say nothing of all the active weather that will happen east from the snow and ice storm that's looking likely from Texas to the mid-Atlantic, and more extreme cold and sub-zero wind chills for the Midwest. That obviously several states and even thousands of miles to the east of us. Spokane, very calm forecast, though a cloudy one, as those highs stay in the mid-30s.
Thank you, Thomas. Now let's head over to nearby Oregon. Pretty quiet in Oregon, but let's check in with meteorologist Chris McGinnis in Portland.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Chris McGinnis from the Rose City. 3 things you need to know about the weather today. A, it's cold in a lot of places. B, it's windy in some places. And C, it's been dry for days. It will continue to be dry for days. And that in and of itself is a story. So we're going to talk about all 3 things. First, getting out the door, it's cold. 26 degrees at PDX, the coldest low temperature at the airport since February 12th of last year. Nearly a year's worth of days have gone by. We haven't been colder than that. So really cold out there. And echoing that, 23 at Pearson Airfield, 23 in Scappoose, 24 Hillsboro, Salem 24. All of those low temperatures are the coldest of this winter and the coldest since February 12th of last year. So obviously that's going to get your attention outside this morning. Aurora started off the morning at 27. Corvallis started off at 23. Burns got all the way down to 8 degrees. That in and of itself is not newsworthy. Of course, eastern Oregon in the high desert is typically quite chilly this time of the year in the mornings, but nonetheless, a cold air mass over the region. All right, fast forward a few hours, temperatures are beginning to warm up. It's 34 degrees at the airport. The breeze has also started to swing around to the northeast. That's the other thing that we've talked about, the wind, right? More on that in a second. We're up to 28 now, up to 28 in Salem, up to 15 in Burns. The wind has been another driving force, a driving headline here, especially east side of town, East County, and into the Columbia River Gorge. So Camas, Troutdale, Corbett, Gresham. Again, the big winner so far this morning has been Corbett, notching a 69-mile-an-hour wind gust. But even the east side of Portland near I-205, Division, 40 miles an hour, I-205 at Division Street. So again, if you're in one of those east wind-prone locations, today is going to be another day where we're dealing with that. And Futurecast bears that out pretty well here. Gaps through the gorge, some of the nooks and crannies in the Cascades, and even in the Coast Range, some areas are prone to that east wind from time to time. Not everybody feels it, but if you live in one of those locations, you know the weather pattern that we've had the last couple of days. That's what we're going to continue with throughout the day today. All right, the low cloud lockdown continues out across the Columbia Basin and the Gorge and portions of north central Oregon early this morning. You can see that here on our satellite imagery. However, Modeling does show that may start to erode a little bit today. So that would be good because those parts of the state and the region have not seen much sunshine at all for the better part of almost a week in some cases. All right, air stagnation advisory still continues, though, across the Columbia Basin for today. Futurecast does show that we're starting to erode that cloud deck, though, basically from all directions. So there's some hope we'll see some sunshine out there today. West side of the state, southwest Washington, after a cold start, plenty of sunshine and a milder finish with highs in the upper 40s to near 50 here in Portland. Again, the low clouds will take quite a while to burn off. So the Dalles and Arlington maybe only get into the upper 30s to near 40 degrees. All right, let's talk real quick about the dry streak. 8 days without a drop of rain, 8 consecutive days without a drop of rain at PDX. The record is 13 set back in 1985, and there is now an increasing chance that we get there as we look at the 7-day forecast. And why that's remarkable is January is on record, or on average, our third wettest month of the year. So we're going days without meaningful rainfall, and of course that impacts the Cascade snowpack as well. But the trade-off is a lot of sunshine taking us into the weekend.
Thanks, Chris. We are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, it's flu season. We are taking a closer look at one of the populations getting hit hard. We have good and bad news when it comes to flu activity in the United States. The latest CDC data shows that while flu cases remain elevated across the country, the amount of activity has decreased or stayed stable for 2 consecutive weeks. But the bad news is deaths linked to the flu are trending upward, and health experts are bracing for the potential for a second round of the virus. Mandy Gaither talks to a pediatrician about why children are one of the groups at highest risk and how to protect them.
In the U.S., hospitalizations for flu in children younger than age 18 have the highest peak weekly rate in more than 15 years. And in the latest week of data, there were 15 flu-related pediatric deaths for a total of 32 reported child deaths associated with flu this season. The CDC says 90% of those who died were not fully vaccinated against flu.
Children, especially under the age of 2, they're pretty small. And when they're still small, you get something that's just so inflammatory, like influenza. When it gets into your lungs, it causes a lot of inflammation.
Dr. Frank Esper with Cleveland Clinic Children says the best protection against severe disease is for adults and children 6 months and older to get a flu shot.
By protecting yourself against influenza, you're also protecting everybody in your family.
Washing hands and highly touched surfaces can also help prevent the spread. For young children, especially at preschool, Esper recommends an adult using an alcohol-based rub to remove germs.
Alcohol is actually a better way to clean off their hands than to use soap and water.
If a child is sick, Esper says to keep them home, and you can also consider masking.
We masked up during the first rounds of COVID. We saw flu just drop, because everybody was staying away from each other. Everybody was masking when they were out, and flu couldn't get through that.
Well, the flu is not the only disease people need to look out for. Mandy also looked at the top 5 emerging infectious diseases that an expert says to watch out for moving forward.
They're illnesses that are easily spread. Emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases can be transmitted through travel, bugs, or by those who are unprotected by vaccination and remain a major concern.
All of these infectious disease threats, the reason we don't have to worry about them is not because they vanished. It's because we have tools that we have deployed to control them.
Dr. Amish Adalja with Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security says those tools are being underutilized. His top 5 list of infectious diseases to watch out for in 2026 starts with measles. As of Tuesday, there have been 171 confirmed cases reported in 2026 in the U.S. There were more than 2,200 confirmed measles cases last year.
The U.S. will likely lose its measles elimination status later this month.
Next, avian flu remains a top concern. Adalja says these viruses circulate naturally through birds and can spread to other animals.
The 1918 influenza pandemic was an avian influenza outbreak that turned into a worldwide pandemic.
Third, Adalja says a family of contagions called filoviruses, which include Ebola and Marburg virus, continue to be a threat in Africa and are spreading.
And we continue to see new countries experience outbreaks of these viral hemorrhagic fevers that can be very difficult to contain.
Fourth, Mpox, which causes flu-like symptoms and a rash and is spread through intimate contact or contaminated items like bedding. Adalja says the Mpox vaccine can help, but many of those at high risk aren't getting it. Finally, insect-borne illnesses like Oropouche virus spread through mosquitoes and biting midges, and anaplasmosis spread by ticks, which he says is spreading in the U.S.
People know about Lyme disease, but they might not know about anaplasmosis, which can be more severe.
Good thing to keep in mind to stay healthy. Well, when we come back, your forecasts are coming up from Denver and Colorado. Welcome back to Weather Out West. Let's go now to Colorado. We've constantly discussed the bleak snow season in Colorado. Kathy Sabin and Katie LaSalle are tracking the potential for some much needed snow from Denver.
Hello from Denver, Colorado. We're enjoying a beautiful winter day. We've got sunshine today, temperatures above the average of 44. As a matter of fact, we should be in the low 50s today. This ridge stays dominant, and there's also a big blocking high pressure area. I mean, this is an Arctic air mass that's staying just to the east of us, so we're keeping an eye on that. And then this little cutoff low, which will be on the move later this week. That low is going to tap into this Arctic air, create freezing conditions across the Gulf, and create quite the wintry snowstorm in the Northeast later on this week. We've got high clouds coming in on the northwest flow today, but really just a nice sunny and mild day to melt off the trace to 2 inches of snow that we saw overnight Sunday into Monday. Watching that Arctic air kind of moves toward Colorado, then moves back. We're worried a little bit that some of it might come in for the Broncos Sunday football game, but it looks like it'll stay east of us, and we really don't have any snow in sight for Colorado, really, over the next 72 hours. So we'll have those high clouds coming in, winds at the surface out of the southwest, nice melting snow. There's a little front that's coming into northern Colorado, but as you can see, we're not getting that beneficial moisture with it that we would love to see. Instead, we're talking about elevated fire danger with a fire weather watch for Sterling, red flag warnings from Colorado Springs down to Pueblo. It's windy, it's warm, it's dry. Temperatures will start this morning in the 20s and then warm into the low and mid 50s by this afternoon. We have a beautiful string of days coming up until the end of the week. And then it turns colder with temperatures in the 30s, maybe a snow shower down here, little snow in the northern mountains, not enough that we have any accumulation forecasts or any advisories for snow, but we clear out Saturday. We stay chilly at 32, and then we warm up Sunday. The Broncos take the field at 1 o'clock. I have a kickoff temperature of 44 degrees here in Colorado. We are praying that Sunday forecast is a winning forecast.
I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team's Katie LaSalle. We saw a fresh dusting of snow over the metro area on Monday, this Tuesday, January 20th. Sun is shining. Most of the snow melted yesterday. And right now, Denver is sitting at just under 10 inches officially of snowfall for the season. Usually by the end of the month, we see 27 inches on average of snow. But we are bracing for some windy conditions ahead of our next cold front, really set to switch things up in the weather department here across Colorado as we get into the end of the week and weekend. But in the meantime for today, strong gusty winds over the northeastern plains, gusts up to 35-40 miles per hour. We're watching our next Arctic air mass that'll keep us pretty calm as we get into at least tomorrow and on Thursday. But as this moves into Colorado, we are bracing for some much colder air, and with an area of low pressure moving in over the Four Corners region, we could be seeing some more widespread snowfall, which is great for Colorado's snowpack, but it won't be until Saturday into Sunday. So I'll show you what we're expecting coming up. For our snowfall forecast, as we get into early Friday morning over southwestern Colorado, our San Juan mountain range, this will move in very quickly. So through the day on Saturday, more mountain moisture moisture on tap. And if that cold air really sticks around over the Front Range and Eastern Plains, the Denver metro area looking at a good chance for picking up some light to moderate snowfall, and we'll keep you posted on how those totals develop. Regardless, we could use any little bit of it, as you can see from our drought monitor, especially into Colorado's central mountains. Our snowpack still sitting at the lowest we've seen on record to date, this time in January, only at 59% of median. So 7-day forecast, this could change here in the coming days if we continue to watch that system scooch further off to the west as we get into the end of the week. But regardless, temperatures will be a whole lot colder. So the next couple of days, it's going to be mostly sunny, relatively mild. Typically, we see highs in the 40s, 50s for Tuesday and Wednesday. A touch cooler, still dry on Thursday. Friday, Saturday, we'll be watching very closely. Good chance for seeing snow showers develop Friday night through the day Saturday. As of right now, we're looking at low 40s. But again, if that system rolls in further closer to Denver, the Broncos game against the Patriots could be a little bit chillier. But Broncos country, no matter what the weather, we'll be cheering and doing great for the team.
Thank you, Katie. To the desert now. It is mild in Phoenix for the time being, but changes are brewing. Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries is tracking the chances for rain from Phoenix.
I'm meteorologist Ginger Jeffries with a look at your weather out west where, wow, we got a rare sight in the sky. Yeah, can you believe this? I mean, it does happen. It's not out of the question, but man alive, when it does, we blow it up because look at this. Yeah, what you're looking at, the northern lights seen by one of our 12 News weather watchers in Cave Creek. So that's just a little north of the Phoenix metro area. I mean, typically when the auroras come into play, we only see them in the far northern part of the state, closer to Sedona, into Flagstaff, but this in Cave Creek, so a little bit closer to the metro. And hey, with our nice clear skies, we could get another round of that gorgeous view tonight. Meantime, during the day, well, the view isn't too shabby. You gotta like this, Phoenix, 75 degrees. We did it yesterday and we liked it so much, we're gonna do it again today for your Tuesday. 72 in Quartzsite, I've got 75 in Havasu. Still those pesky winds through our natural wind tunnel known as Bullhead City. 52 in Flagstaff, 61 in Payson, 74 today in Tucson. So high pressure still treating us right. High pressure is in charge, but continuing to kind of slide off to the east. This is now by Friday. So I'm going to zoom through the week because we're pretty much going to hold and stay the course until Friday. By that time, that's when we've got this cutoff low. So it's an independent weather pattern. It's going to be moving onshore. And this guy, because it formed off the coast of Baja, it's a little bit warmer than what's going to be coming into play from the northwest. So watch this cutoff low press across the region. The primary candidate for some rain will be on the east side of the state and into the higher elevations. But then as this low drops into play, courtesy of the jet stream by Friday into Saturday, well, we've got some cold air mixing in, and that's when we've got our potential for some snow. Light snow at best, and the models are all over the place. Right now, no one can agree. We know it's coming. We know it's a rainmaker, but as far as the positioning, it looks kind of south of the city to bring Phoenix any rain, and also well north of the city to really drop in a major amount of snowfall or even a decent amount of snowfall. So the projections are light at best. So when I say light, I mean under 1/10 of an inch of rain, if we even see it in the metro. And for higher elevations, yeah, certainly some snow may be coming down up to possibly an inch in the higher elevations, a dusting through Flagstaff. So again, this is still a long range forecast, and it looks like the prime candidates will be the east side of the state. So I'm talking about the White Mountains, high country, only about a 30% opportunity. And Phoenix, we're kind of in that bubble as well, with only about a 20 to 30% chance of some stray sprinkles on Friday and Saturday. So don't cancel your plans. It's going to be light at best, and it's not going to last long. Until that time, oh boy, it is gorgeous. We've got nice clear skies out there, 50s in the morning, warming up to the mid to upper 60s by the noon hour. And yes, headed for about 75 degrees by 4 o'clock today. We are in what I call a holding pattern because I do have 50s, even the higher elevations through Thursday. As these lows press on through, look for temperatures to come down a smidge. That means the 70s are going to turn into 60s by Saturday. And hey, we're going to hang out in the slightly above average but comfort zone through next week.
Well, you just heard Ginger mention cooler temperatures are coming to Arizona. And you've probably heard the warning that if you don't bundle up, you can get sick in the cold. But is there any truth to that? A doctor with the Cleveland Clinic says the answer is a little bit complicated.
Well, you can't get a cold from the cold weather itself, but you can get a cold indirectly from cold weather environments. Make sure that you wash your hands frequently, that you cover your cough or your sneeze, and stay at home if you're sick. Also, eating healthy foods and keeping yourself nicely hydrated will go a long way into keeping yourself healthy. And of course, getting your vaccine.
She goes on to say how colder temperatures can make your nose and throat dry out, making it easier for viruses to enter your body. And viruses, like the flu, spread more easily in the winter. She says you're more likely to get sick if you're spending more time indoors and are sitting close to other people who are sick. Still ahead, a check on your California forecast. Parts of the Golden State are expected to stay dry, while the other half has some rain chances. We'll show you who taps into the wet weather coming up. To California now. Northern California is fairly mild right now, but let's go to meteorologist Monica Woods with the forecast from Sacramento.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods, and we're looking at our regional headlines heading into what is likely going to be a short work and school week for a lot of folks. Sunny skies for the coast. We are stuck in the fog for the valley. For the foothills, sunny and warm, and a dry stretch continuing for the Sierra. Our Tuesday outlook is looking a little bit more favorable and slightly different than what we've been seeing over the past couple of days. I want to show you some pictures of what we call the pea soup here in the valley. That Thule fog just really settled in up and down the valley, and this was really problematic throughout the weekend and early for the week. For Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, we were still dealing with it. It was nice that we didn't have quite the volume on the roadways because visibility was restricted all the way deep into the early afternoon. But again, as we head into the middle of our week, a few changes that we're going to be tracking, and I want to get to that right now. Here's a look at the cloud cover that's going to take us through our Tuesday outlook. So this is going to drift through Tuesday into Wednesday, but you'll note it is still a dry forecast. There's not a whole lot of wind. We're still dealing with parts of the valley that are dealing with poor air quality, but overall, we're going to see some high level clouds along with some of the fog that we've seen in the low clouds throughout much of the valley. That will continue into the middle of the week. Just a little bit of a different sky pattern here. By the end of our Wednesday, we see some showers popping up just off the coast, and a few of those showers right through the central Sierra, not really making much of a dent in any sort of big shift in our weather pattern. We're really going to have to dig much deeper into the outlook into the end of January to finally start to see a little bit of representation of some moisture coming into Northern California, which will turn us into a slightly likely wetter pattern for the northwest coast by the end of January, beginning of February, but much likely drier throughout much of central and southern California. Getting to our Tuesday numbers, highs are going to be close to 50 for the high country. Not much snow out there in the short-term forecast. Highs in the 50s and 60s throughout the foothills, and that really leads to that inversion where we have that warmer air above the colder air, and that's going to trap in some of the low cloudiness. As far as the central Sierra, highs are going to stay in the 50s to near 60. For the Central Valley, we're in the low to mid 50s. Merced really sucked in there at 52 degrees for an afternoon high. Along the central coast, highs in the 60s and 70s. As we head inland, a much different story here. We're going to see peaks of sunshine for San Lucas, Soledad, but then once we head into the valley, a lot of cloud cover to take us through the day. The Bay Area forecast, we're looking at highs close to 60. Inland areas, we're going to keep it in the 50s. Keep in mind, again, reduced visibility and then some high level clouds, which is just going to kind of cap that warmth. Highs are in the 50s and 60s along the northwest coast. We're in the 60s for the north end of the valley, and then 40s as we head towards the east side of the state. And for the capital region, highs are going to be in the 50s into right around 60 degrees. El Dorado Hills, slightly better chance of seeing some peaks of sunshine and some breaks in the clouds for our Tuesday. Moving on to our extended forecast, a mix of sun and clouds for much of the work week for the Sierra, and then we return to sunny skies, albeit a little bit cooler by our Saturday outlook for the high country. For the foothills, highs are going to be in the 60s, and then we start to see just a slight shift to cooler weather for the weekend. That's actually good news because we want to try to preserve as much of that snow as we can, because as you can see, it's not much on the horizon for any sort of moisture moving through Northern California and Central California. We're going to keep it pretty dry here for the next 10 days.
Well, it's a little bit of a different situation in Southern California. It is not as dry there. Meteorologist Vanessa Paz is tracking the timing of some rain chances for San Diego.
Happy Tuesday from San Diego, California. I'm CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz. Well, in Southern California, we have some major changes. We've just been under these warm temperatures, all thanks to a ridge of high pressure that has kept temperatures well above normal. We even saw plenty of 80s last week, and we're finally going to see temperatures simmer down, becoming more like winter. Now, here's what you can expect in terms of weather headlines: low clouds and patchy fog. Yeah, the marine layer we all know and love is going to return, and we will have some gradual cooling starting on Wednesday, and that will last through the weekend. And we also have an area of low pressure just sitting offshore. It's going to sink south, and that's going to give us a chance for some showers Thursday, lasting all the way through the first half of the weekend. As we take a look at the winds, they are still sort of out of the east. They'll weaken though later on this afternoon. You'll see that more of that wind direction comes from the south as well as southwest, and that's going to bring in that cooler, moist air. As we take a look and fast forward to high temperatures for this afternoon, we'll be in the high 70s. So another warm day on tap, especially for those areas away from the coast. On average, the inland valley should typically be in the upper 60s. So we'll still trend anywhere between 5 to 10 degrees above normal today. And then tomorrow we'll start to feel that noticeable cooling. In the meantime, the coastal areas will be just a few degrees above average in the low 70s, high 60s from Oceanside all the way down to the South Bay. The mountain areas will top out in the high 60s. For areas like Julian, topping out at 68 degrees. That's well over the normal, the 30-year average of 52. And then for the desert areas, we'll be inching close to 80 degrees later on today. We are going to have some cooling though. Tomorrow is our transition day into a cooling pattern. We go from the 70s to the 60s by Thursday. And even just yesterday, a lot of our inland valleys were in the 80s. So talk about a big drop in daytime highs by the time we get to the end of the week, and it's all due to that incoming storm. So let's go ahead and give you a play-by-play. I'm going to put this into motion here, and that's that ridge of high pressure, that warmer air. It's going to sink south. This area of low pressure is going to push that ridge out of the way, bringing us not only the return of onshore flow, but also some moisture. That area of low is going to tap into some subtropical moisture, and that's going to bring us a chance for showers, most likely Thursday night, and there will be several rounds. We'll have another round Friday afternoon, and then another round on Saturday, and the snow levels just to our north in San Bernardino, Riverside County will likely drop to the local mountains, but unfortunately, it looks like our local mountain neighborhoods won't see any snow. When all is said and done, rainfall estimates quite low, anywhere between 1 to about 4/10 of an inch. It looks like the greatest numbers will be in the northwest quadrant of the county, and they'll be quite minimal, especially the more south we get. The coastal areas will be in the high 60s for one more day, and then we'll be in the mid to low 60s starting tomorrow. For the inland valleys, we'll be in the upper 70s, and then we drop down about 10 degrees or so. We tank down to the high 60s by Wednesday, and our coolest days Thursday and Friday with the greatest chance for showers on Friday. The mountains and desert areas, one more day of the 70s, then we're in the 60s. Quite chilly Friday and Saturday. Take a look at those overnight lows, 30s, low 30s, in fact, by Saturday night. We stay warm for the desert areas, low 70s starting Wednesday, and then we're in the 60s by the time we get to Friday.
Thank you, Vanessa. Well, a special kind of dog is making a big difference for children in Wisconsin. Coming up, we are going to explain what a facility dog is and introduce you to Nexa. Well, you have definitely heard about therapy dogs, but what about facility dogs? One is helping kids in Greene County, Wisconsin deal with some very difficult issues. Shayna Najawan explains what a facility dog is and introduces us to Nexa.
Nexa, come here. Come here. At the Greene County Child Advocacy Center, children come here after experiencing abuse, neglect, or other crimes, often referred by law enforcement or child protective services.
They'll come here for a forensic interview, and a forensic interview is just a way that a trained, skilled interviewer can speak to a child without them having to retell their story.
For years, staff hoped to add a facility dog to that process, something that could help kids feel calmer before and after those interviews.
We had an idea that it would be more than a couple years, but I wasn't prepared for 6 years.
Then last June, an email finally arrived.
Beginning of June of this year that just said, with a picture of her saying, you've been chosen. You want to stand up? Come up. Okay, stay.
Nexa was placed through Dogs for Better Lives, an organization that trains and places service and facility dogs at no cost to clients.
We place these amazing dogs completely free of charge to our clients. So the demand is always there. It's more of a question of how many of these incredible dogs can we train and get placed with people they can help.
Nexa isn't a therapy dog. She's a facility dog, trained to work with many children in one setting.
And there's a lot of times that they're talking about really just, difficult things that they don't really want to discuss, and they'll sit and tell Nexa because she's, non-judgmental and she's just listening.
After months on the job, Nexa has already made herself at home.
Can you wave? Kids make her art and bring it and drop it off for her. So she's been quite a fan favorite here.
And while she spends her days working, nights are for being a regular dog.
When she goes home with us, she's just a regular puppy. She runs around like a regular puppy, and you're a good girl.
She is just the cutest thing. Glad to see she's hard at work. Well, that does it for us here on Weather Out West on this Tuesday, January 20th. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. Thank you so much for sticking with me for the last hour. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Have a great day.